Hi, this is the voice of Heidie Calero with another economic capsule on the Puerto Rico economy. We have entitled this economic capsule, Puerto Rico's infrastructure and economic growth is at risk. Why are we saying this? Because infrastructure, which is the investment which is done in bridges, in dams and roads, in water, in electricity, in telecommunications, in wastewater, in landfills, all of that is important for any economy to really grow. And what I'm depicting for you is the findings of the American Civil Society of Civil Engineers, American Society of Civil Engineers, that did this study back in 2019, and they have a report card on Puerto Rico's infrastructure, and I'm depicting for you the grade point of all this infrastructure. In bridges is D+, in dams it's D+, in water D, in energy F, in ports D, roads D, solid waste D-, wastewater D+, and the overall grade point average is D-. In any book, D is deficient. It is not sustainable to continue growing with such a deficient infrastructure, and Puerto Rico needs a plan similar to what maybe our neighbors have done in Dominican Republic, because they have a national plan on infrastructure 2030. Why can't Puerto Rico do this? Well, we need really to take care of sediment in our dams. We need to take care of our roads, especially our contractors, that they only put a sliver of asphalt in repairing those roads, and just several rains later on it's almost gone. So we need really to require accountability and demand that things be done with quality. Otherwise, we will not be able to pull out of the economic depression we have been in since 2007. This next graph is entitled Success and Decline, and that is the total infrastructure in Puerto Rico since 1989 through 2022 in fiscal years. Notice that we started with 1 billion almost in 1989. A decade afterwards, it had grown to almost $3.2 billion, an increase of 205%. And since then, we have been diving downwards to the point of $1.7 billion in 2022. And again, from 1999 through 2022, that has accounted for negative 47% decline in infrastructure. And obviously, we must remember that Puerto Rico used to have funded its infrastructure with public debt when it announced that it could not do it back in the third quarter of calendar year 2015. Well, all the financial markets were closed, and Puerto Rico had no access to these financial markets. And by June 2016, Puerto Rico was under the boot of the Puerto Rico Oversight Supervisory Board under the law of PROMESA. We have seen in the next graph what has been happening with public versus private investment in infrastructure. The blue line is the public investment, again peaking into 1999 up to $2.4 billion, and the private investment amounting to $783 million. And that consists of two main segments. That was telecommunications and its renewable energy. As of 2022, and after the bankruptcy in 2016, if I'm depicting here with this vertical line, we have been seeing a decline in public infrastructure and a private sector that has been trying to compensate, whereas now the private sector represents 61% of total infrastructure investment, and the public sector 39%, whereas in 1999, the public sector was 75% and the private sector 25%. Definitely, the infrastructure in telecom has increased from 48% in 1999 to 52% of total infrastructure in 2022, and the same thing for renewable energy. It used to be 36% of private infrastructure in 1999, and now it is 42% in 2022. Certainly this investment gap, as we are depicting in this next graph, as a percentage, infrastructure as a percentage of Puerto Rico's GNP, in its peak, it accounted for 8.3% of GNP. Notice how this decline as a percentage of GNP is also an eloquent mismanagement of what has been happening with public debt and with public policy in Puerto Rico. And now it's 2.2%. Even after Hurricane Maria and all the disasters that it has caused, we still have not yet recovered our infrastructure, not even with the alleged influx of federal funds, disaster funds, which have really not materialized, not yet. So since federal disaster funds have not yet moved massively into infrastructure, we are seeing this decline. And finally, what is the impact of this gap that we are seeing between infrastructure and GNP? It is eloquent in this graph that I'm depicting for you. Again, the peak and the green line is the infrastructure in 1999, and GNP is the red line. What we have done here is an index. We divided each of GNPs each year into 1999 as an index, as 1989 as an index equals 100, and the same thing for infrastructure. And notice how infrastructure has been declining, descending, as it used to be in 1989. Definitely without growth, without infrastructure, current levels of economic growth will not take off. This is what we are seeing here is not associated. These levels of infrastructure are not associated with an expanding economy. And definitely Puerto Rico's level of investment, in conclusion, in infrastructure, which has been declining since 1999, certainly has not been impacted favorably by Puerto Rico's bankruptcy in 2016, least of all the impact of Hurricane Maria that ravaged the island, and these federal disaster funds that have not been channeled and have not been dispersed at the speed that Puerto Rico needs. But we do need a plan, an infrastructure plan at an island-wide level that will cover all the components that I mentioned in the first part of this presentation, because otherwise, really, there are no metrics, there are no standards against which to compare. Is Puerto Rico making it better in terms of infrastructure or not? That is what the American Society of Civil Engineers is really encouraging Puerto Rico to do, but yet we are still not compensating for that. We need a plan, but it cannot take decades before a plan is unraveled. So if you like our economic capsule, don't forget to go to YouTube under the voice of Heidie Calero. Give us a like in those capsules that you like. Subscribe if you haven't done so. Remember, this is a service of Puerto Rico Economic Pulse, and that the economy is all of us. Thank you.